There were 13. This would have been 1962. Dave was walking down the street. Rudy yelled at him, "Get off of my property." Dave looked at him, and then Rudy turned and said, "Do you collect comics?" And from that moment on, they became best of friends. Now, anyone else want to share, please stand up, starting with Ken. You notice how I volunteers. Come on, Ken.
Well, I'll tell you, Rudy's rough exterior, he really was a sweet guy. And, saying get off my grass, that sounds exactly like him. But, I've known him for 45 years. And we published more fanzines in conjunction and together, than anybody else. And it was a lot of fun. And I am going to miss him. Sweet guy. But I'll tuck him away and I'll dig him out later.
I think we all agree with that. Anybody who wants to be second? Don't jump up all at once. Okay, Roy.
I met him in the early 60s, I think maybe 64, 65. I had a record shop on what used to be South Park Boulevard. He was going to Jones High School. I met Dave Eddings first. And Dave was in the store and heard me talking about Captain Marvel, and Dave jumped in and said something about that was the guy that said Shazam. And I asked Dave, "How do you know? You're 2 years old. How do you know about Captain Marvel?" And he told me he had some comics at home. And it turned out that Dave had been buying from the Rockets Blast. And he did have, and I didn't believe him, of course, and I told him to bring in whatever it was that he bought them from, and I wanted to see it. So the next time he came in, he had Rudy and I can't remember, but I know that in that same period I met Terry Hanks and Doug Potter and several of them. And anyway, that's when I first saw Rudy was when he came into the record shop with Dave. And it wasn't but a year later that we formed the club. And of course, from that point on, I saw a lot of
The club was Houston Comic Collectors Association.
And he followed my stores all over the city. Anyway, it was a pleasure to know him. He was a fine boy and certainly a fine man. And I'm really sorry that he's gone.
Danny, your turn.
He's my dad. I definitely remember going to Roy's every Saturday, collecting comics with Dad. Of course, he was there for every major moment in my life, from being born to my wedding to being there for, got to see his two grandboys. I know they were pride and joys of his.
Stephen?
Yeah.
He's on
Oh,
camera.
okay, you're running the camera. Okay, we'll leave you last. Bill, you go next.
My dad loved comics.
Oh, stand up. Anybody can say that. Which was his favorite?
Superman, everybody knows.
You know which is better.
The Batman.
Of course. He's not here to argue with us, so we can get away with it.
Yeah, I used to go with family.
I think he's more woman in Charlton than either of these.
Oh, yeah, he would have been in trouble. But you were saying?
He loved all, especially the horror comics. I remember reading those. Mom hated that. They were awesome.
DC's?
Oh yeah, I used to take his comics and trace out of them and make him angry because I put lines in them.
I can imagine you were doing. But he probably turned around and
Oh yeah, it turned into a passion of mine too, so it did.
Okay, Bill, I'm not going to leave you in. I mean, Steve, why do I do that every time?
Yeah, he did the same thing.
That's all right. No, Rudy.
Can we put you on the camera? Oh, yeah.
ahead.